Hello, how are you? Thanks for joining. I'll wait a little bit for people to come in, and while we're waiting, share with your followers and everything like that. Hi Tamashian. Just waiting on a few more people to come. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hey, John. Remember to share. Thank you for sharing and inviting people. Invite your followers. Share this. Yes, I'm excited about this topic. I wasn't sure what I wanted to talk about tonight, and then I was like, let me just talk about something I talk about all the time. And then that way I don't have to do a whole lot of thought about everything. I see a few more people joining. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for inviting your followers. I appreciate it. Thanks for the hearts, you guys. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started, mostly because I have a couple other things I need to take care of tonight, so I want to go ahead and get through this. And I actually wanted to start with a video, and I guess before I start the video, I'll just tell a little bit about myself. My name is Kel. I am a 7th grade science teacher in a suburb outside of Detroit, Michigan, and I am also an EDD student, and I'm getting my doctorate in metropolitan education. And so I am studying, thanks Marcia, I'm studying a lot about minorities in education. I do a lot of trainings for teachers. I've been kind of on a break right now. Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. I've been on a break right now for my trainings, but I think we're going to start up again. I do diversity trainings with teachers, teaching them cultural competency, teaching teachers how to incorporate and be more cognizant of race and diversity in the classroom, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where my passion lies. And I do try and scope every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. and this is my Sunday school scope. All right, so tonight I see we have more people joining, so again, just keep sharing and inviting people, etc., etc. So tonight what I want to talk about is the school to prison pipeline. Hello. And this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, and I think how it started was, like I said, I'm in a suburb of Detroit, and I noticed when I first started teaching in this suburb, I would notice on my prep hour, like every teacher gets a prep hour. So there's 6 periods throughout the day and a homeroom. So there's 7 classes, and then you get 1 off hour. So you're supposed to be making copies, calling parents, anything that you need to do, you're supposed to do it during your prep hour. So I would notice sometimes I'd run down to the office of my prep hour, and every time I would go down there, I would see who was lined up to go see the assistant principal because they had gotten sent out of class or they were in trouble. And I noticed that every time I went down there, it was black boys lined up to go see the assistant principal. I'm like, why is it? And I'm like, is it just me? Am I the only person who notices this? What's really going on here? And so as I was talking with the people that mentor me and kind of have helped me, kind of let me tag along when they do their diversity trainings and stuff like that. And as I was talking to them about it, I was telling them, I said, it just kind of seems like we're making little prisoners or something here. And they were like, Kelly, that's called the school to prison pipeline. And I was like, oh, I didn't know it was a thing. I thought it was just something that I had just kind of noticed on my own, but it's unfortunately, it's a thing, which is really, really sad when you think about it. Yep, look like a duck and quacks. Look like a duck and quacks like a duck. Yeah. So, yeah, so then I started researching about the school to prison pipeline even more, and then one thing that one of my mentors told me to read was The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. And when I read that particular book, and it just really talked a lot about how basically, first of all, prisons it's an industry, and I think that a lot of times in America we forget how capitalistic we are as a society, and the prison system is big business. And when you read that book, and then if you read another book by Angela Davis, Angela Davis book is really, really small. It's called Are Prisons Obsolete? And she begins to talk about do we even need prisons? And she kind of goes over how in other countries, the things that they do in terms of discipline and management and stuff like that, and the exorbitant rate of prisoners that we have in the United States compared to other countries, it's just ridiculous. But the thing is, prisons the prisoners are used to make clothes for instance, Victoria's Secret, they a lot of the products that are made from Victoria's Secret are made in prisons. There's other corporations as well that they're using prisoners as employees basically, and so it's cheap labor. And so if you need certain things produced, yes, it is a new form of slavery. If you need certain things produced in like a quick amount of time, then you need more prisoners. And the way that they're Victoria's no, it's not Victoria's Secret. And so the thing is, they're building prisons and basing like projections of how many prisoners there will be in the future based off of fourth graders and their reading levels and how many kids are at a certain amount of reading level. So basically, prison industries, they're relying on schools to kind of predict the future. And so unfortunately, what happens in schools, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you have a particular student who may start down XYZ path, or perhaps their teacher is not culturally competent. And so a lot of times, again, this thing about like aggressive, I see it so often, like a student, hey Tadra, how are you? A lot of times a student may act a certain way, and then a teacher may misinterpret that action because they're not necessarily culturally competent. And then what ends up happening is that like that teacher will see the student as being aggressive, and a lot of times it's not. I think, like Jawanza Kunjufu talks about, black boys they have a lot of energy, and they need to know how to kind of channel that energy sometimes. But I think society has trained people to see black males as a threat. And so a lot of times the things that, I think sugar can make a lot of people crazy, not necessarily just black males. But I think that people have a certain viewpoint in their mind, and then it just kind of, they base everything off of that, and it kind of skews your thinking or whatever. So anyway, so I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, so as that happens, as these students continue to get in more and more trouble, then in their mind, then they start thinking like, I'm bad, and then they take on that mindset that's been placed upon them, and then they begin to act that way because they feel like that's the expectation, that's how society or people want them to act, and then they end up going down this path. But I did a presentation for my school about the school to prison pipeline, and I showed this video that's on YouTube, and I wanted to show you guys real quick. So I gotta figure, hopefully I don't end the scope. Lord Jesus help me. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna flip the camera, okay, and here we go on YouTube, and make sure my sound is up. But if you don't know what the school to prison pipeline is, this video will explain it to you real quick.
When a kid gets in trouble at school, we used to send them to the principal's office. Now we're suspending, expelling, or even arresting kids for the smallest misbehaviors. This trend is called the school to prison pipeline. There are pipelines all across the country. Nationwide, as many as 95% of out-of-school suspensions are for nonviolent misbehaviors like these. In one town, the cops were called to break up a fight, a water balloon fight. When you crack down harshly on or expelling a kid increases his or her chance to drop out of high school. And we know high school dropouts are 3.5 times more likely than high school graduates to be arrested in their lifetime. Sending a kid to juvenile detention center also makes crime more likely in their future. Kids who are incarcerated are 67% more likely to be back in jail by the age of 25 than similar kids who didn't go to prison. And this zero tolerance policy doesn't apply to everyone equally. In Wake County, North Carolina, which has one of the largest school to prison pipelines, 40% of black kids caught with cell phones were suspended, while only 17% of white kids were suspended for the same thing. Though blacks and Latinos make up only 29% of public school students, they make up 70% of students involved in in-school arrests or who are referred to law enforcement. Schools even crack down on special needs students, arresting them for the very behaviors that stem from their special needs. 32% of youth in juvenile detention are special needs students. That's the school to prison pipeline, another way that the United States incarcerates more people than any other country on earth.
Yeah, so I showed that video at my school for a staff meeting during a staff meeting one day, and by the end of it, like, nobody had anything to say. Like, it was just, it was one of those like cricket, cricket, cricket type of moments. Like, it got real quiet. It got real quiet real quick. Nobody had anything to say. Yeah, but it is a really good video, and it's a really short video, but it just goes over everything pretty quickly. So yeah, it just really, it really just resonates, I think, after you watch something like that. And so then I think from there we have to become solution oriented and solution minded, and kind of think of, okay, well, if this is the problem, what are some things that we could do to kind of stop, you know, what's happening. And I think, again, there's so many different options about what to do. Something that we're trying in my district is called restorative justice. And so they're trying to, instead, because what ends up happening is, like, in my district in particular, the state actually looks at all of the districts and looks at, like, the rate of who's getting suspended and all that kind of stuff. And so our district got cited for disproportionality in their suspension rate. And so we've been doing something called trying something called restorative justice. So instead of suspending kids as much, trying, like, to focus on relationship building and reconciliation, and also, like, matching the consequence with what was done. So for instance, like, some kids are tardy all the time in the mornings because of whoever's dropping them off. Well, okay, so then what was happening was they would get detention for being tardy, and then they wouldn't go to detention. If you don't go to detention so many times, then you get suspended. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why is somebody going to get suspended because because they were tardy at school? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So whatever happens in terms of discipline, it should match what was done. So that's kind of what they're trying to work on, and work on some alternatives to suspension. We do have in-house suspension, that's in-school suspension, but that still counts as a suspension. And again, this, like what was being said in the video, when a child is suspended, then it's taking them away from class time, and it's taking them away from learning. And the more that you take them away from learning, the less likely they are going to be able to succeed. So sometimes in-school suspension isn't always the best alternative. And in our case, when we have, we call it ISS, in-school suspension, it's the same thing. Like, they have these cubicles, there's a bunch of black kids in the cubicles, and they get work that they're supposed to be doing, but right, exactly, address the issues with the family. Why is that person continually coming late? You know, I think sometimes that's a whole nother scope. Yeah, again, it's starting with the home, but also I think that there's so much. Oh, wow. So yeah, instead of getting suspended, another form of discipline, finding something, having them clean and stuff like that. So, you know, they were saying, like, we can't have the kids clean anymore because that's considered some corporal punishment or whatever. I forget I get the two confused, capital and corporal punishment, but they were saying something like that. I don't know anymore. But I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts. Well, if they have a late pass, that's different. It's just people, no, it depends if it's an excused tardy or unexcused, depending on what the circumstance is. But I think what the main concern is, back to the school to prison pipeline, being more aware of, again, different cultures and behaviors, and I think people just need to be more aware of how they view each other. And, you know, some things are not as aggressive as people make them. And I think that, and I think also there's just a strong need for more minority teachers to go into the field so that they can reach out to students, so that there can be a connection made a little bit better. It's just really sad. And so my suggestion from here is to check out my suggestion would be to check out those books. I suggested the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, and as well as our Prisons Obsolete. And yeah, so that's pretty much all I had for tonight. And I don't know if anybody had any other thoughts or comments. And I've seen a lot about like it starts at home and stuff like that, but at the same time, I don't think that we can just say that the home is the only factor. Like, yes, parenting starts at home, and home is the first place that education begins, but I think at the same time we have to realize that we're part of a larger system. And okay, Tadra, I will. We're part of a larger system, and there's so many things that are connected to each other and we don't even realize it. And I think that once we begin to realize how deeply we are connected, then we can make change. What about the socioeconomic factors and cultural differences? John, what do you mean by that? Can you kind of expand on that? The video, hold on, my computer turned off. Hold on, let me, This is the title of the video for who asked about that. It's by New Brave Films, How the School to Prison Pipeline Ruins Lives Before They Start. You're welcome. John, I saw what you're saying. Did you, oh, okay, sorry. So how certain minorities are undereducated and looked at as inferior. Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And I think that people come in with biases, and that's where I struggle. Is like, how do we change something like that? Yes. So for instance, DPS, and I think that, yeah. So like for example, like I'm in the urban education class right now, and we talk about DPS a lot. Just like why I think people have lower expectations when it comes to minorities, or have lower expectations when it comes to an urban district or an urban school setting. And again, I think that if you raise the expectations, people will rise to whatever expectation you put on them. People will rise to whatever challenge you put on them. Oh, thanks, John. Thanks for the clarification. Yes, DPS is Detroit Public Schools. So yeah, I think that people will rise to the occasion if you challenge them. But if you just continue as is, then if you have a low expectation, then people will underperform. Why can't they manage fewer big buildings? You know, the whole DPS thing, that's another scope in itself. It really is. That's something we talk about like for whole class periods at a time in my college thing. I know, Lean on Me. Man, I watch Lean on Me like once a year at least to encourage myself. I watch Lean on Me and I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's not that bad. I think the best thing for those schools will be young teachers fresh out of college with ideas. Tadra, and that's what I'm thinking about more and more and leaning towards more and more is like, right now I train teachers and stuff like that, but it's like they already come in, they already have these biases and whatever, like they already have low expectations for students. And so I was talking to my mom today about like, what if I worked at the college level, and then that way I could reach pre-service teachers before they even started, and just, kind of shape people before they even get into the system and get jaded by it. So that's just something I'm thinking about and praying about. So I don't know. Who knows? Leave it up to God. Leave it in God's hands. Hi, how are you? I'm almost done, Carla, but you can probably catch the replay? I don't know, but you can catch that. Thank you though for joining. I appreciate it. Yeah, some students respect younger teachers better and some respect older. I just think it's about building that relationship and getting that connection together. That's pretty much how I feel. Well, it's almost, when I looked at the time, oh my goodness. You guys, it's almost 8 o'clock. I gotta go. I got things I need to do tonight. Yes, Yes, I talked about that book last week, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. Yeah, I mean, Tadra, you're right. Any student, any teacher, I think that if you open up and show that you're a human, I mean, you don't have to tell all your personal business, but just be human. I think that kids will honor that and respect that, and that relationship can be built. But like I said, you guys, it's almost 8 o'clock. I got things I have to do. I've enjoyed everyone tonight. Please catch the replay. I think that's what Carla said from LA. And I will be back next week. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week. If you have a suggestion, then please hit me up on Twitter. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Okay, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks again for stopping by. Bye-bye.